My friends, welcome back. Before plastic, before metal drums, before any of the containers we take for granted today, there was the barrel. And for 3,000 years, the wooden barrel wasn't just a container. It was the shipping container, the refrigerator, the wine cellar, the water tower, and the medicine cabinet of the entire civilized world. Everything moved in barrels: flour, salt, gunpowder, whiskey, nails, fish, tobacco, butter, wine. And every single one of them was made by hand, by a craftsman called a cooper, using nothing but wood, fire, water, and a set of tools unchanged for 2,000 years. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how they did it. Stay until the end. Because the final step, the one that holds the whole thing together, has no nails, no glue, and no screws. And it hasn't failed in 3,000 years. It started with the wood. Not just any wood. White oak, specifically white oak, for anything that would hold liquid. Why white oak? Because white oak has a unique cellular structure. Its wood rays, the microscopic channels that carry water through the living tree, are filled with a substance called tyloses after the tree is cut. Tyloses plug those channels completely. White oak, once dried and shaped, is naturally watertight. Red oak doesn't have this property. Cedar doesn't. Pine doesn't. Only white oak. The trees were selected standing, straight-grained, no knots, grown slowly in dense forest, so the rings were tight and even. A barrel stave cut with the grain running wrong would leak, always. So the tree was red before it was felled. Once cut, the logs were split, never sawn, along the grain. Sawing cuts across the wood fibers. Splitting follows them. A split stave is stronger. A split stave is tighter. A split stave doesn't warp. The split billets were then stacked outside, not in a barn, not under cover, in open air, for 2 to 3 years. Rain on them, sun on them, freeze them, thaw them. This process, called air seasoning, drove out the harsh tannins, relaxed the cellular structure, and made the wood stable enough to shape without cracking. Kiln drying was faster, but kiln-dried barrels leaked. Air-seasoned barrels didn't. Time was part of the craft. After seasoning, the work began. Each stave, the individual curved planks that form the sides of the barrel, had to be shaped by hand. First the drawing knife, then the jointer plane, then the hollowing knife. The drawing knife removed the rough surface, the cooper pulling it toward himself with both hands, shaving thin curls of wood with each stroke. The jointer plane trued the edges, the sides of each stave that would meet its neighbors in the finished barrel. These edges were not cut straight. They were cut with a slight bevel, angled inward, so that when the stave curved into its position in the barrel, the edges met flush. Getting this angle right required experience that couldn't be taught. It had to be felt. The hollowing knife shaped the inside face, giving it a gentle curve that matched the inside of the finished barrel. A barrel has 32 staves on average, each one shaped individually, each one slightly different, because no two pieces of wood are the same. The cooper held each stave up to the light, read the grain, felt the thickness, and adjusted every cut accordingly. Now came the most dramatic step, the step that separated coopers from every other woodworker. Raising. The cooper assembled the staves inside a temporary metal hoop, called a raising hoop, standing them upright side by side, fanning them out at the top like a flower opening. 32 staves, standing loose, held only at the bottom, splaying outward at the top. Then, fire. A small iron fire pot was placed inside the barrel. Wood shavings were lit. The flame was controlled. Not too hot, not too cool. Just enough to heat the wood and make it flexible. Water was thrown on the outside. Steam hissed up through the staves. And as the wood softened, the cooper began pulling the top together, using a long rope called a truss hoop, drawing the staves inward, bending them into their final curved shape. It required 2 men. One tightening the rope, one tapping the staves with a mallet to seat them evenly. If it was done right, the staves pulled together perfectly. A tight circle, even all the way around. If it was done wrong, a stave cracked. Or the circle went oval, and the whole thing had to start again. This step could not be undone. It was the moment of truth. Once the barrel was raised, the permanent hoops were driven on. Not nailed. Driven. Iron hoops, made by the local blacksmith to the cooper's specifications, were placed over the barrel and driven down with a hammer and driver until they were seated tight. The compression of the hoops against the curved staves created the seal. No glue, no nails, no screws. Pure geometry. Pure physics. The more pressure on the hoop, the tighter the staves compressed, the better the seal. This is the same principle as the Roman arch. The load makes it stronger. After hooping, the ends were cut. The cooper used a tool called a croze, a specialized plane that cut a groove around the inside of each end of the barrel. Into this groove, the barrel heads were fitted, circular discs of wood, assembled from several pieces joined together with cattail reed between each joint as a natural gasket. The heads were bent slightly, just enough to spring them into the groove, and once in place, they couldn't come out without destroying the barrel. Then the bunghole was bored, a single hole in the widest stave, precisely centered, smooth enough to accept a wooden bung that would seal it completely. The barrel was filled with water, left overnight. If it wept at the seams, leaked slightly, it was normal. The wood would swell and seal itself within hours. If it ran, leaked freely, the barrel went back to the bench. Something was wrong. The cooper would find it. A properly made barrel, properly maintained, could last 100 years. Some of the whiskey barrels in Kentucky distilleries today are 3rd and 4th generation. Re-coopered, re-hooped, still holding liquid from trees that were felled before the Civil War. 3,000 years. The barrel was invented somewhere in ancient Gaul, what is now France, around the 1st century BC. The Romans adopted it immediately, replacing their clay amphorae with wooden barrels for everything. It crossed to England with the legions. It crossed to America with the colonists. And for most of that 3,000 years, every single one was made exactly as I've described, by hand, by one craftsman, using the same tools, the same techniques, the same wood. The last generation of traditional coopers in America retired in the 1970s. Their knowledge went with them, mostly. A few programs survive. A few apprentices were trained. The craft isn't dead. But the day when every town had a cooper, when the smell of wood shavings and wood smoke meant someone nearby was making something that would last 100 years. That day is gone. I'm Jacob Miller. New video tomorrow. Stay curious.